about the writer's strike. Look, the last time there was the writer's strike, it was 2007 to 2008. There was no Star Trek at that time, right? Well, no, Enterprise was just finishing, wasn't it? Or was it over?
Enterprise was gone.
2006.
Enterprise was long gone.
Or 5 or something like that.
2005.
Right? And then the new movie was 2009. So this kind of just went right in the cracks. But in 1988, there was a writer's strike.
Remember this well.
And Star Trek, The Next Generation, was in its second season. And everybody at home is right now saying, wait a minute, isn't that the best season in Star Trek history? Yup. Maybe.
There's gems in there.
So this is an article from slashfilm.com written by the guitarist for Guns N' Roses.
He does great work.
Yeah.
He loves Star Trek.
Everybody complains. It's all the pentatonic scale with his solos. So what? It sounds great. Anyway, how the 1988 writers' strike led to the worst episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. I'd like to first, before we even read it, say, told you so. I keep telling everybody this was the worst episode in Star Trek history. And then there's some people that are like, I actually really like that episode.
There's many reasons why it's the worst episode. Even the creators say it was a piece of crap.
It's basically the only one that wasn't written.
Well, if you go to IMDb, it's the one with the lowest score. So that's just an objective thing. Like, people can individually disagree, but collectively, it's got the lowest IMDb score, and it's not even close.
By a lot, yeah.
All
right. So
I will say at the time, because I remember, like, I'm a little bit older than you guys. I remember at the time, like, that was a thing that would happen in TV shows.
I remember that too, often, the clip shows.
Yeah, exactly. There would often be like we're really short on stuff. Let's have this random little clip show. And that was why I was so mad when it first came out. Because I remember watching it as they were like, what? Really? They're going to do this too? But, I wasn't as aware of, like, the writer's strike that was happening at the time and the reasoning behind it. But yeah, that was definitely a thing in the 80s. The clip show.
Everybody in the live chat, do you remember when you were watching your favorite sitcom and they would all gather around the couch and they would be like, oh no, the power went out. Well, let's get some candles here. Well, Mom, the TV doesn't work. Well, we can just talk about our favorite memories. Okay. Do you remember the time? And it would be a whole episode about, do you remember the time? Oh, that was funny, but it wasn't as bad as the time that, and that was writer's strike stuff.
I still get mad when Wait, Don't Tell Me does this. Every now and then they have the best of Wait, Don't Tell Me. It's like, oh, come on, seriously? They still do that.
We should totally do that one day. This is what we'll do. Is one day when we all need the time off, we'll just edit a bunch of clips together, and then I'll record like 30 seconds of each of us saying, well, yeah, but do you remember the time that, and then we'll just splice it all together. And then people will be like, wait a second, did ChatGPT just take over the main viewer? All right.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Faith Howell says, I feel like I've seen clip shows even somewhat recently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I feel like those are going to be way less frequent now that seasons are 6 to 10 episodes. There's
really bad if there's 6 episodes and one's a clip show. Like, okay.
Yeah. And not standalone, but through arc-based.
Serialized, yeah.
Serialized. That's the word I was looking for, James.
Mohammed, would you like to read this one for us?
Sure. And apologies, Dr. Anne-Marie. I know she's a fan of the show. As all good Trekkies know, Star Trek The Next Generation got off to a rocky start. As detailed in William Shatner's 2014 documentary, quote, Chaos on the Bridge.
Anne-Marie's also a big fan of that documentary from 455 Films, who are doing the Voyager documentary. Sorry, Mohammed, please continue.
Yeah, no problem. Actually, you should mention about the Voyager documentary soon, about the event coming up in June. Chaos on the Bridge. Next Generation was hotly contested, with various producers and showrunners all vying for control over the project. There was a lot of animosity as a result, and a lot of arguments as to what kinds of scripts would be used. Show creator Gene Roddenberry, according to the film, was insistent that he had control over every facet of the production, as he had been barred from working on the second, third, and fourth Star Trek movies, and wanted to make sure, quote, his baby, end quote, was safe. There were, however, reports that Gene Roddenberry's personal lawyer, Leonard Maislish, was taking completed scripts and rewriting them in secret. Executive producer Rick Berman suspected that the written notes he received from Roddenberry were actually Maislish's doing.
Wow, what drama!
Kind of crazy. But law was definitely Maislish's fallback choice.
You guys remember the Fall Guy?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Lee Majors.
Not the kind to kiss and tell, but I've been seen with.
They remade it. It's a movie coming out.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's Ryan Gosling or somebody like that.
Better be coming out in the autumn. Mohammed, would you like to hit us next, please?
Sure. Maislish was gone by the start of season 2, but a 1988 writer's strike stymied production, leaving the truncated season on uneasy footing as well. Most Trekkies will agree that The Next Generation didn't hit its stride until its third season. Most seasons of TV ran 26 episodes at the time. Season 2 ran only 22 episodes. Many of the scripts for season 2 were older screenplays that had been initially written for other Trek projects, some of them left over from the original series. Thanks to new budgetary leeway, money could be more freely shifted around between episodes, which allowed for a few more ambitious ideas, like the debut of the Borg. Unluckily, this meant if one episode went over budget, another would have to be shortchanged. The strike, the chaos, and the lack of budget led to what is often considered the worst episode of Star Trek Next Generation, Shades of Grey. The next section is WGA Strike of 1988. Some brief history. The 1988 WGA strike was the longest strike in the organization's history, lasting 153 days.
Wow.
The strike was primarily inspired by producers refusing to pay writers residuals on the broadcast of reruns. Because reruns weren't performing well, producers tried to rework contracts based on an unfair percentage model. Writers also wanted to give input on what kinds of actors and directors might be selected for their works and be assured higher budgets for specific projects.
Well, Melissa, Mohammed, John, how long do you think this strike is going to last?
Ooh.
Hopefully not 153 days.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah. And if the Screen Actors Guild does strike, because there are many of the same concerns with SAG as there is with WGA, then I think that might force people's hands a little bit more, because what can be made if the writers and the actors are on strike.
So the 2007-2008 one, is that the one that disrupted the ending of Battlestar Galactica? Because I remember they broke up the fourth season.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Chunks.
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember also, I don't know if you ever watched Friday Night Lights, which is a great show on NBC, but that strike destroyed season 2, where all of a sudden, like, one of the main characters committed a murder. And
I only watch shows that have
it was ridiculous.
Orville actors.
It was the worst season. You what?
I only watch shows that have Orville actors in them.
Oh.
Friday Night Lights did, though. It had Adrian Palicki, right?
Yes, that's right.
I saw the first few episodes. It's really good, actually. It's surprisingly a very good show.
He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too.
Aaron really liked Friday Night Lights.
Aw. Confirmed. Good show.
Good show. And the Shield. He liked that too.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know what? We're going to do a poll about this. Asking everybody. Yes. And remember, the record is 153 days.
It said at that time was the one that happened in 2008 longer?
No, the 1988 one is the longest one.
Okay, because in the article it just said that was the longest one at the time, so I wasn't sure if that meant that later ones were longer.
Point. Yeah. The one in 2007-8 was, what was it, like 4 months or something like that? So I feel like it was like November to March, something. I don't really remember, but
pretty similar. Just 4 months is pretty close.
Yeah. So let's see what our options will be. We'll say less than 2 months.
Oh, BL says 2008 was 100.
Oh.
Oh, well. Yeah.
Oh, wait, which one? It was 200 days?
100.
Well, this is according to BL in the chat. I mean, I don't know if that's right, but he didn't cite a source.
All right, then we will say, we'll just keep it like this. And then, okay, so the options are, okay, the question is, how long will the strike last? The options are less than 2 months, or 60 to 100 days, 100 to 149 days, which would be up to 5 months, or 150 plus days, so 5 months and more. See a lot of optimists chiming in so far. All right, let's continue with this. Oh boy, this is going to be good stuff, everybody. Right now they're chanting, "We want more shades of gray." Yeah.
That was Anne Marie leading the chant.
There you go. So, even the premise for Shades of Grey, which aired July 17th, 1989, that's my son's birthday, was thin. Yeah. Commander Riker, Jonathan Frakes, was scratched by an alien thorn while on an away mission. The thorn contained a mysterious virus that attacked Ricker's brain, and he fell into a coma. In order to fight off the virus, Dr. Pulaski, Diana Muldaur, has to stimulate Riker's brain and force him to relive memories. In doing so, viewers were treated to flashbacks to previous episodes, which took up about half the show's running time. There were supposed to be themes of Riker's flashbacks, all his happy memories, all his scariest. They didn't really fall together in a dramatically satisfying way.
Shocking. We would have expected it to be. Okay.
I like that verbiage, the dramatically satisfying.
I know. Here's a question for the live chat. Everybody at home, do you remember ever once actually enjoying a clip show? Like one time where there was a clip show in a sitcom or a TV show or whatever, where you're like, actually, that was dramatically satisfying. I actually enjoyed that show. Let us know. Maybe there's some good ones.
To me, it was mildly tolerable in the Golden Girls because there was always cheesecake involved.
Oh.
They would sit around the kitchen table and eat their cheesecake, and there would be a clip show. But there would be witty banter in between, because all four ladies were awesome.
In the early 90s Simpsons, there were a couple of really good clip shows. Like there was one where Homer was hospitalized, and they just did a clip show based around that. Or there was an April Fool's one where who was it? Either Homer or Bart pulled a prank and like exploded the kitchen of the house, and then it just spun off into a clip show. Really good stuff back then. And and that was like they were doing clips from the first 2 or 3 seasons of The Simpsons. Including the famous one where Homer tried to jump Springfield Gorge, and like the most famous clip of that early era that put the show on the map when he just fell down the gorge and then ended up in the ambulance, and the ambulance crashed, and he fell out of the ambulance.
Yes, that's right. Very good.
Early years of Simpsons, man, those were amazing.
Yeah, so let's move on from that article. But you'll be surprised to know it actually covers more of Shades of Grey, and it talks about the actual season 2. Maybe we should finish up on that.
Well, yeah, because there was kind of some interesting nuggets in there that I hadn't realized.
Yeah.
The clips themselves were picked by a PA, and the director had never seen the final cut.
Good old Eric Stillwell.
Episode.
Oh.
Yeah.
You want to top?
Yeah, please.
Sure. The strike had ended by July of 1989, but its effects were still being felt. The new accounting also dealt its blow. Elementary Dear Data was set mostly on the holodeck and included period costumes and sets. Q Who features elaborate Borg makeup and Borg ship sets. Those two episodes, the rumor goes, drained Next Gen of its coffers, leaving Shades of Grey with nothing. Shades of Grey was a slapdash affair. In Edward Gross and Mark A. Altman's 1993 book, Captain's Logs, The Complete Trek Voyages, the episode's director, Rob Bowman, confessed that he had 2 fewer days to film the episode than most shows, leaving him and the crew on the sickbay set for only 5 days. At the last minute, however, the schedule was shortened to 3 days. If it looks like Sirtis and Muldaur are overacting, it's because they too were in kind of panic mode. Bowman said he merely filmed the, quote, wraparound segments, and that the flashback clips in question would be selected later by PA Eric Stillwell. Bowman said he never saw the final cut of the episode. By the way, final cut is a Pink Floyd album.
Which is crazy for a director not to see the final cut of something that he worked on. It's nuts.
Totally. Also interviewed in Voyages was season 2 head writer Maurice Hurley, the producer responsible for firing Gates McFadden in the second season. Hurley, who wrote Shades of Grey, understood that it was easily the most terrible episode they had done and called it a piece of asterisk. Hurley was fired at the end of the season, and McFadden was promptly rehired. That's a good outcome there.
Well, now hang on a second. If Maurice Hurley was the head writer, right? Head writer.
Mm-hmm.
How did he write Shades of Grey during a writer's strike? It's very confusing.
He did that. It may have been Maislich, since he was writing all of that stuff.
That's what this article says.
And
it says head writer Hurley, who wrote, quote, Shades of Grey, was easily the most terrible episode they'd. Who knows? Maybe things were different. It was the 80s. People didn't care. They were all coked out.
Yeah, I don't know. But he also wore a producer hat. So I don't know. Maybe that there was a shade of gray in there too.
Ooh, very good.
It also did mention that they had pulled old scripts that didn't pass muster for TOS and another Star Trek show that they had intended to put out. So they just used those old scripts. So maybe Maurice wrote that script before the writer's strike, and we're just using it, to fill in.
Good point.